All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Adopted Mom Podcast follow-up show. And I am so excited that we got to steal Miss Jenny Mars away from filming for a few minutes to answer some questions and chat about our episodes. So, hello, Jenny. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good.
I see you're in the car. So you're like literally driving from filming, right?
Yes, just finished. We're actually gonna grab something to eat. So we're on our way to grab something to eat and then go home and start it all over again in the morning.
So you're just feeling like ready to go,
Legit.
like you're rejuvenated. You're hi.
Hello.
No, I'm so tired, but yes, we're good. We're good. I already told you 8:30 is my bedtime, so I'm like well past.
I know. So I feel so honored that we get to see past 8:30 Jenny Mars.
Amazing. I know. Only on filming weeks. Normally I'm a night owl, but then when I have to wake up so early, I can't. I'm tired by the end of the day. But
I don't blame you, girl. That's oh man. So before we get started on some of these questions, and like I said, just to anyone that is watching, if you have questions during our broadcast or afterwards, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I'll monitor the feed afterwards. So even if we're not live, you can still ask questions and we will still answer them. But we do have some questions that were asked earlier today that I have here. But beforehand, how was it filming? It was your first podcast, right? Not filming, but recording.
yes. Oh, it was. Yeah, I did one a long time ago, but yes, it's been yes. It was my first one in a very long time, and it was good. We had a good chat. I honestly forgot what we talked about by the time it aired. Is that bad? I knew we had a good talk, but then I forgot it was being recorded, and I also do not like listening to myself, so it was kind of painful. I listened a little bit, and then I turned it off because I'm like I'm rambling, and
I feel like you have a really terrible job if you don't like listening to yourself.
Yeah, so we took on a TV show.
I know. Our producer was mad at me because I told her I didn't watch the pilot on our show. I watched it with our friends, but I just made fun of myself the whole time, and I never watched it again.
Oh my gosh.
And she made us watch an episode last night. We had just finished filming, and she's like, "You cannot talk. You're not allowed to talk. You just have to watch it." And it was truly painful. Truly painful. And I was like, everybody who I can't listen to myself, so it's bad. But yeah, I just don't watch it. It's fine. Or listen.
I feel you have nothing to worry about, but I completely understand because I feel like we're always you're great. Yeah. But yeah, I think we had a good talk. So on here, we like to plug the episode for people who haven't listened to it and answer some questions and do follow up for those that have. So if you don't mind, could you just give us like a super quick rundown of your family and your like mini adoption story, just kind of the basics of what we talked about in your show?
Sure. So Dave and I, who's driving right now, have been married for I don't even know how long.
A lot of years,
a long time. And we have two boys who are twins who are about to be 8 in a couple weeks. Sylvie, who we adopted from the Congo, is 6, and then Charlotte is going to be 4 next week. And Sylvie came home in 2014, and she was 2.5. And I had an 8-week. Charlotte was 8 weeks old at the time. She was our big surprise baby. So yeah, that was it. It was a crazy summer, but we survived, and here we are.
Yeah. So I love that. So even though your girls are like an appropriate, amount apart, it felt probably like not an appropriate amount apart.
Oh, not at all. No, it was like having twins again because Sylvie came home as a toddler. I mean, everyone knows the first 6 months home is, I think, worse than a newborn. Actually, it was crazy. And then I had a newborn on top of it. So, and Sylvie was in, and we were trying to figure out health stuff. And then I had the newborn. I'm like, I can't let her get sick. And anyway, yeah, it was crazy. But
goodness,
survived.
Yeah, definitely. And that's all the cool stuff that we talked about in your episode, coupled with the crazy life that you guys have jumped into with having your own show. And yay, since we recorded the podcast, it has officially been picked up for a full season, which is awesome.
Yes.
Which is why you guys are really tired right now.
Yes, it's crazy. Yes.
That's awesome. So yeah, speaking of which though, let's get into some of these questions. The first ones were, if you could just sum it up, what were some of the, maybe like the top 3 reasons that you guys really wanted to adopt? And that was from Cynthia.
Wow, that's hard. I mean, number one, we just felt God was calling our family to it. Both Dave and I did, and He just had impressed a heart for the orphan, and at the time in our lives that looked like adoption. That doesn't mean it looks like adoption for everyone, but for us it did, and it was what He had for us. I would say that's probably the number one reason.
Yeah.
We I don't know. We just wanted, that's how we knew we were supposed to build our family. I had a dream. I can't remember if I told you this. Did I? I don't know, because I didn't listen to the whole podcast again. I couldn't stand my voice. But I had a dream like a long time ago when we were first married. It was a dream of, we were standing in our kitchen and look, there were all these kids running around, and they were all different shades and colors, and I just knew that our family was going to look different at that time. I didn't know what that meant or how that would transpire, but I just knew that was just going to be part of our story. So
Yeah, I love that.
Reasons, I don't know, but
well, and that was just something I threw out there. But yeah. That's a great answer. That's I do remember you telling me that dream now, and that's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. That was that's really cool. I think that not everyone has such a cool, like, I don't know, divine story like that. So, Andrea asked, what is a typical filming day like?
Oh, typical.
There is no typical.
Yeah, Dave's chiming in too. There's no typical. So the way it works for our show is our crew, most of them live in Tennessee, but they're kind of from all over. So they fly in for a week at a time. And then we have like a week of intense time when they're here filming. And then they go home for a week, and then they come back for a week. So right now is one of the weeks. So it feels like we're in a black hole because we just are focused like all day, literally sun up to sundown, filming. And but it depends. Like tomorrow, for example, I mean, every day is so different. Tomorrow, I'm driving to Eureka in the morning to make some pottery. So it's like an hour away, I guess, and we're doing this pottery thing for one of the houses, and Dave's going to one of the other houses and checking on cabinets and installing French doors, I think, tomorrow. Yeah, it's just, there's so much going on. We're doing 3 houses at once right now, so there's a lot going on every day. And we just kind of jump between the different houses and check on things and do things, and I don't know. It's chaos. The reveal weeks, which our next reveal week is in 2 weeks, those are particularly crazy for me, at least, because we have to stage the whole house. We have to finish everything. Like literally, the cleaners are in there cleaning, and we're bringing in furniture and decor, and we're there till like 2 a.m, and then we get up early, and the homeowners come, and we get to show the homeowners their house. So those weeks are super, super exhausting, but so fun because it's like all the hard work is finally culminated into being able to show the homeowners their house. So it's fun. It's rewarding.
Yeah. I bet that's fun. Okay. So Lauren asked, how do you balance what is public versus private concerning your family for the show?
For the show,
well, just since you guys are more of a public family.
Yeah. It's one of my I'm still trying to figure that out, honestly. Because I want to be protective of our kids and just our life. But I also know it's important to share, some stuff. And I know that God has given this, believe me, let me just say, this was not on our radar. Nothing that we pursued or wanted, honestly. And I know it, I don't know, I hope that doesn't come off as like ungrateful, but like, it just wasn't something we would have ever done on our own. So we know, and we were very prayerful about this whole experience. So we just know that for whatever reason, God has brought us to this season of doing this crazy thing. So I'm just praying constantly about like, how do I balance like sharing things so that people know who we are and what's important and what our values are, and glorifying God, because that's our goal. But then also protecting our kids and stuff. So I mean, one thing is I just have a private Instagram that I use for like just our family, that I post a lot more pictures, where publicly I'm starting to like scale back on close pictures of the kids. And my kids are getting older too, so it's changing anyway, just naturally.
Right.
But I just used to share a lot more, but than I do now. So I don't know. I'm just careful about like one of the things the show, they wanted to film, our production crew wanted to film us taking the kids to school and like dropping them off and walking them in. And I was like, I don't want to do that, because nobody really needs to know where our kids go to school.
Right.
So stuff like that. Just try to be thoughtful. I think just like every mom, like it's just a weird world we live in, where everything is out there for everyone to see all the time. And I don't know. I think it's just a learning process. I don't have it figured out though.
Yeah, well, I love the honesty there, because I think that, I mean, you were recording your first season, so I imagine it's definitely touch and go.
Okay, sorry, we're figuring out plans. Yes,
Arranging
exactly.
logistics.
Yes, we're doing logistics. Go ahead. Yes, yeah, it's different too. Yeah, because we're not. I don't know. I don't feel like we're super public right now, and I also don't know that anyone's even going to watch the show. Who knows? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. But I want to like be careful of, just protecting our kids in a way. I don't know. We're figuring it out as we go. Praying a lot. Like, that's all I can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Brooke asks, does every house that you guys flip end up on TV?
Well, no, because we have a business that
Right.
the regular houses don't, but the show houses, yes. So we have 8 episodes, and so we have 8 houses that we're doing for the show. So each house is an episode, and we plan it ahead of time for the show. Mm-hmm. But we have other projects going on as well.
Right. So how did you guys, her follow-up question was, so if not, how did you decide which of just you guys as clients would be show clients?
So it was actually a crazy process. It was a learning process for us, because they weren't just our regular clients. It was like, some of them were, some of the houses were people that we knew and brought in, but otherwise the production company did like a casting call, and then the network vetted everyone first. Like they went through and it was all in their hands. We just we didn't really have a say until the very end. They said, okay, yes, this project will work, this family, whatever it is. And then we would get them and they would say, okay, go look at this house and let us know. And a lot of it was based on the project and the size of the project. Sometimes it was too big of a project, and because we're doing these in 4 weeks for the most part, and 3 at a time. So it's like, you can't take on a huge house renovation. I mean, we're trying to keep it manageable. So yeah, it was just more like, and also different types of projects. Like we already did this style house, and so we wanted to, we just tried to make it varied, I guess. That makes sense.
I didn't even think about the different types of house thing that you want to keep it interesting. So yeah, that's awesome. I did not know that. So back to a kid's question. Sheila asks, how do you reconcile for your children the affluence and opportunities in America versus the poverty and challenges of meeting basic needs in Africa with Sylvie? So
it's pretty much part of it's just part of what we talk about all the time. It's not something that I don't know, it's just part of our family's fabric. We have a farm as well that we grow berries, and our funds provide a training program and a farm in Zimbabwe for orphan kiddos. And so like Dave was just there last week visiting the kids, and we were Skyping, and like the kids at school did a actually, this is my friend Chris right here, who runs Help One Now. He's the founder of Help One Now, who we partner with. He's laughing at me, videoing me right now because I'm on. But
I love Help One Now, though.
Yes, so that's Chris. He's in town. Say hi, Chris. You're live.
Hello, what's up, everyone?
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Hey, they
So I
close
was
in
just-
9 minutes. Do you want me to order you something?
Sure, just whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
This is cracking me up. I love it. This is real life, though.
It's chaos all the time. So we partner with Chris and Help One Now, and we do work with them in Zimbabwe and other places. And so we go there. We've gone as a family before. We went to South Africa last year, and I was in Zim, and Dave was there last week. And we go and talk. Like, Dave's going next week to the boys' classes. They're both in second grade, and he's going to go talk about his trip. And the boys' classes sponsored one of our kiddos in Zim, and so Dave's bringing back videos. And I don't know, like, it's just part of like what we talk about as a family. It's not like one thing we were told a long time ago on one of our first trips to Congo was actually, I think Chris told us. Of course, he's not there anymore, but Chris Marlowe, who's the founder of Help One Now, is that you can go to these countries and these places, third world countries and impoverished places, and you can feel very guilty for the life that you live, or you can go and feel grateful. And we made a decision that we were going to feel grateful, and we were going to give back, and we were going to use our life and our resources, whether that's time, money, energy, to give back, because he who has much is expected of. And so, yeah, I feel like if we're not trying to make our kids feel guilty either, it's not like, I know when I was a kid, there's starving kids in Africa, eat your food,
Right.
we don't do that. But we talk about it all the time. Like, we have a lot of sponsored kiddos, and we have their pictures in our house all around, and we pray for them and all of that. So it's just part of our, it's in my purse. There you go. It's just part of our, we just try to make it part of who we are as a family. So
Yeah, and that, I think that kind of leads into another question, which was, what made you choose to adopt from Africa? Was that the reason, just that you wanted to give back, that was your heart?
No, we didn't really have a reason. It was really interesting. It's that whole thing that we just felt like that's where our kid was. We didn't know why, neither of us. And we were told by our first social worker that we shouldn't, because of transracial adoption is difficult and adds different challenges. Any adoption is going to be difficult, but there's different challenges. And she basically told us, you should not adopt transracially. And
wow,
yeah,
it's a bold social worker.
I know. And it was like, there was no reason why. She just was like, just think about it when they're grown up. You have to remember, kid is going to be part of your family forever. And we're like, yeah, that's the whole point. So we ended up getting a new social worker who we love and is amazing. But we knew, it was just, I don't know. It just was where our daughter was. That's the only explanation I have, because we've been asked, I'm sure any adopted mama who's internationally adopted kiddos, you're asked the question, why not adopt from America? And
right.
And there's really no other reason besides that's just where our daughter was. Sylvie, that's where she was, and she's our girl. So but once we went and we knew and we learned, even before we went, as we were studying and learning, and then we went and visited, then we realized this is a whole different ball game than in the U.S. Poverty. Anyway, so
yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's something I've never been, but I've heard from lots of people that have, and they say it's just you can't imagine the difference unless you've been there, because we think of poor people in America, and it's just not in any way the same.
Yeah, I think one of the differences, there's not a safety net at all. I mean, I know that sounds bad, because I want to be careful, because I know that there's systemic problems here in America as well, but there's no government, there's nothing that can support, there's no one you can't stand in line anywhere and get
right
food for your kids. You can't send your kids to school, that sort of thing. So yeah. And when we went last year with our kids, we took them all to South Africa, and we went to the slums, and we went to an orphanage and a day center, and our kids are young. I mean, the boys were 6. I was really nervous about bringing Sylvie, but that's a whole nother story. And it went wonderfully, and it was awesome. And then Charlotte was 2, and Sylvie was 4. And a lot of people are like, you can't bring them. Like, that's just too much. It's too overwhelming. But like for them, it was so good because they saw they saw the conditions that we had talked about, especially because for the boys, especially because when their sister came home, we had to explain she didn't have toys, she didn't have food. This is why these things are happening. And they couldn't understand that. They couldn't wrap their, at the time, 4-year-old brains around that. So to go and see it is one thing. And that was so good for them to see and to just be there. And it sort of clicked. But then also we went and played with the kids, and they just realized these are just kids. Like, we don't even speak the same language, but we can play and we can talk, we can have fun. And I'm hoping that just fosters something in them that they can see no matter what as they grow. We're all just humans, and we all may have very different life circumstances. We may have very different families, whatever. Everything's different, but at the end of it, we're all the same. We're all human, and we can all connect over something. And so I don't know, I think that's important for us, for our kids to experience it. It made a difference for them to go and to be there versus just seeing pictures or videos or us talking about it. It was really good. So,
Yeah. I'm so glad to know that you did that. And I think I think you did mention that in your podcast episode, just that you took them all over there. And I'm sure I thought the same thing then that I do now, which is that you're crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm so glad that your family got to do that. And I know that you guys will treasure those memories. And I'm sure it won't be the last time that you guys do that, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
And
they're wanting to go back.
Yeah. And what a blessing for Sylvie too. I know that was, like you said, that was a whole nother story, but just what a blessing that you're not like, well, you're in America now, so say goodbye to everything Africa. But yeah. So we have a couple more questions. The next question isn't so much an Africa question, but still a kid question. So it's from Kara. Do you ever deal with mom guilt being a busy working mom? And if so, what are some of the ways that you handle that?
Yes. Dave and I were just having this conversation because we're like, oh, we have to go see our kids. Yes. And so this is a weird season because normally I can work my schedule I pick my kids up from school. Like, I'm always there. I work my schedule kind of is very flexible, where these weeks of filming and even in between have been crazy, and I haven't been able to do that. But on the weeks that we're not filming, I'm just really intentional. Even if we just have 2 hours together, I don't know, like I have a million things to do, but Charlotte and I during the day, because she's home with me 3 days a week. And so when I'm not filming, I don't have our sitter come. She just comes with me on all, like, I go and meet whomever and she just comes along, go and pick out lights. Like, she just knows, she just comes along. But we'll stop at the park and just play for an hour or whatever, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. So, and like Friday, I told the film crew, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I cannot film on whatever day that is. I think it's the 11th, because it's the boys' last field trip this year, and I missed the first one, and I promised them I would go on this one.
Yeah.
And so they had to like work the film schedule around me going on the field trip with my boys, but it's important, and it's important to them. And so I can't be at everything, but when I'm there, I really try to be present and make that time intentional, because I don't know, I feel like, I don't know, I try not to feel guilty because it's just a season, but it is hard. Yeah. Hi. More people are walking by my door.
You have like an audience within an audience.
And they're my friends, and they're making fun of me because they're like, oh, hi. Anyway. Okay, sorry.
That's so funny. We had a couple quick questions pop up. So do you plan to keep adopting? That was from Chris.
Okay. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say never, because then that never, that you never know. So I don't know. Right
Yeah.
now, I will say right now, our family feels complete.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we are advocates of adoption and pro adoption, I feel like for this season at least, they're like outside my window making faces at me. I'm trying to be serious, but for this season of our lives, I feel like our place is more advocating, not advocating for adoption, but also preserving first families. And that's become kind of what we're most passionate about, is trying to keep kiddos with their mamas, if we can. Which is why we love Help What Now and partnering with them, because they're all making fun of me, and I'm saying nice things about you guys. It's a Help What Now crew. But it's why we love them, because that's what they do. And I don't know. I don't know. That's a long-winded no, probably not, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, I'm with you, because people ask us that, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to say no, because then God's like, that's adorable.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You just kind of hope for the best.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I know you have to go. So any other questions that we have in the feed, I'm just going to tag you in and have you answer when you're not filming. But last question, it was just a really quick one. It was from Ashley, and it was a design question. What is your favorite paint color?
Oh gosh, there's so many. It immediately comes to mind is just White Dove. It's a Benjamin Moore color. It's like the staple. It's what we use 100% of the time, actually, on these show houses, because I know it's a good color for trim or for white, if you're looking for a good white, and for white cabinets. So Benjamin Moore White Dove is the one that comes to mind. That's boring white, but it's a good staple. Yeah. I have lots of other ones, but that's probably my most used, I would say.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've got to jump and see your sweet kids and get to sleep, because goodness. But if you haven't already watched it, you should totally jump onto Jenny's episode. You can find it at theadoptivemompodcast.com. You can find it on Stitcher or the podcast app or wherever you listen, and you're going to love it. So thanks again, Jenny, for being with us. Go get some sleep.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.